Victims to a cruel world, our future is never promised, leading lives without truly knowing what's in store for us, even in the following minutes. What can seem to be like any other normal day could indeed, without any warnings, become our hell on earth. Happy to make up for lost time, when Nenegal spent a few minutes chatting with her cousin at home, she truly felt an inner happiness to have her there. Laughing at stories from their childhood, they never thought that within a few moments their lives would be completely shattered. Hello, wonderful people. I'm Scott Leffler for WonderBot, and here is Bronx man defends wife from attacker, only to face charges of his own. Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. When most people think about the Bronx borough of New York City, usually they think of a melting pot metropolis that thrives on diversity and tolerance. Years before, when Nenegal and her husband, Mama Dow, immigrated there from West Africa, they hoped to attain the American dream, but their dream would look more like an actual nightmare. The husband and wife duo worked tirelessly to provide for their children. They refused to allow their children to experience all the setbacks they had to go through their entire lives. The hard-working couple lived in a tiny, congested apartment, but that was all they needed and wanted. But like any other big city, the Bronx has its fair share of crime, and indeed, they would witness it firsthand. On her day off, Nenegal usually spent the time tidying up her home, and most definitely cooking traditional African meals would always be part of her routine. But that day would not be the case for Nenegal. On the beautiful summer night, her cousin would be visiting, and there was no time for trivial things. She was only looking forward to taking advantage of time with her cousin. But unexpected company would be arriving shortly. In the middle of laughter and reminiscing about past times, Nenegal and her cousin heard a knock on the door. Nenegal assumed it was her husband, a cabbie, who would often stop by home for dinner during his night shifts. But she hesitated, knowing Mama Dow usually calls her in advance to have a meal ready, and he didn't mention anything to her when they last spoke an hour before. Her gut told her to ask who was knocking, but she didn't listen. Instead, she'd open the door to the devil in disguise. When Nenegal opened the door, a man frantically barged in, pushing her to the ground by force of the door. The twisted stranger forced his way inside Nenegal's home, cornering her in her own living room. Things were just happening way too quickly, catching both women completely off guard. In situations like these, perpetrators love to attack when their victims are vulnerable and at their mercy. When Nenegal looked toward the man, she saw a look of pure evil in his eyes, a look that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She insisted she'd give him money, but he didn't want her money. He coldly responded with, "I'm going to rape you." As Nenegal tried to run away from the deranged lunatic, he gripped her fragile body and held her down. The man quickly pulled his pants down and exposed himself to her. Yet again, Nenegal desperately tried to run away from the man, but she wouldn't succeed. But this time around, he wouldn't just force her down, he'd make her pay for it. Screaming at her for attempting to run away again, the man took a chair from the living room to beat her with it. He used it to smash against her body until she collapsed to the floor. Then he was sure she wouldn't fight his attempts anymore. As she screamed for help, he didn't seem bothered by her pleas. He was focused on only one thing. But the man's tall and strong physique would not stop Nenegal's cousin from attempting to help her. She desperately tried to pull the twisted man off her cousin, helping her break free to call her husband. Finishing his shift earlier than usual, Mama Dow was searching for a parking spot outside when he received the frantic phone call from his wife. Mama Dow left his car in the street, still running, grabbed a tire iron, and ran faster than ever before. He ran into the elevator of his building and pressed the button for the 6th floor. What must have been a few minutes felt like an eternity for Mama Dow. Would he ever see his beloved wife again, or would it be too late? When the elevator doors opened in the hallway of his apartment, Mama Dow would come face to face with the man who had brutally beat his wife and attempted to rape her. Before he could even contemplate what his next move would be, the man pulled out his belt and started to forcefully hit Mama Dow with it. But a measly belt would prove no match for a tire iron. Mama Dow used all his power to strike the perpetrator with the tire iron. But it was not just strength that would cause the most pain. It was the extreme anger of a husband wanting revenge for his wife. Mama Dow bashed the man in his head again and again and again. The entire hallway was covered in blood, a scene that would fit accordingly in a gruesome horror movie. Mama Dow repeatedly smashed the tire iron into the man's body and would only stop until the arrival of the police. The perpetrator laid unresponsive on the floor with open wounds on every inch of his body. Completely unrecognizable from the monster that had entered Nanagal's home minutes before, now he laid helplessly on the floor, holding on to life by a string. The man was rushed to Lincoln Hospital, where doctors attempted to treat his injuries. But the doctors' efforts would not suffice, and the man died. The monster who had wreaked havoc on the lives of innocent people was a stranger, someone they'd never met before. But on the other hand, the police knew the man very well. His name was Earl Nash, a career criminal with a lengthy record that includes 19 prior arrests, including robbery, assault, and arson. He spent a good portion of his life in and out of prison. He was recently released from prison in July after serving 9 years for bribery and drug possession. Nash did not succeed in raping Nanagal thanks to her husband, but Mama Dow would not walk away as a hero, but instead he'd be charged with murder. Mama Dow was initially charged with manslaughter despite his claims of self-defense in the attack. But yet another blow would follow from the Bronx District Attorney's Office. Mama Dow was arraigned and charged on 2 counts of assault, criminal possession of a weapon, and harassment. Not able to post bail, to the horror of Mama Dow's family and the Bronx residents, he would have to sit in jail awaiting trial. But a surprising outcome would shed light on the case of Mama Dow. When Mama Dow appeared at the Bronx Supreme Court, he was expecting to possibly make a plea deal with prosecutors. As he stood there, coping with the major possibility of spending more time in jail or, even worse, being deported back to his native country, the judge told Mama Dow, "You're free to go." Mama Dow's family, including his wife and 3 sons, were visibly overwhelmed by the unexpected outcome. The Bronx DA's office abruptly decided to drop all charges against Mama Dow, releasing him from jail. And the reason for his release would shock everyone involved. The family of Nash had written a letter to the Bronx District Attorney's Office pleading for the release of Mama Dow to his family. In the letter, they expressed the sorrow for the pain Nash had caused to the family. They also painted a very different picture of Nash. Nash, the oldest of 5 children, once excelled in sports, acted in television and music videos, and attended Howard University. But after his mother's death in 1995, Nash suffered a mental breakdown and was diagnosed with schizophrenia. His battle with mental illness destroyed his life, turning a normal, law-abiding citizen into a monster.